I think when I first started, I started seeing ticker tape. A ticker tape would go in front of me, and I would just lay there, and then when something would happen, I would just say, "Oh, Bob, I see a ticker tape and words on it," and he'd say, "Fine, can you tell me what's on it?" And that didn't always happen. Sometimes I'd be in there 15 minutes, and Bob would say real quietly, "Is anything happening?" I'd go, no, you know. But that wasn't the case all the time. So the ticker tape was the beginning of the guidance that was talking. And so I started talking, and it's like, talked through me. And let's see, we had not only the ticker tape, I know I would get into a state where I called it the thick state. See, I didn't understand, you know, the Hemi-Sync. I really didn't even understand till I was doing this probably 6 months. And David, I asked David, my ex was a Harvard cum laude graduate, and he was brilliant. And one day at breakfast, he was explaining to me what the Hemi-Sync is. I says, "Oh, well that's interesting. That's what we're doing." So we just had different ways, the guidance had different ways of talking to us and talking to Bob. Finally, when I got a guide, a specific guide, Bob wanted to talk specifically to this guide. And so he asked, when the guidance came, he said, "What can I call you?" And my guidance said, "Well, we would rather not give our name. We don't want to be pulled down into earth and have people, you know, sort of put you up as some whatever guru." And so Bob said, "Okay," but so he gave a name, So, because this guide had sort of a Chinese accent. So, you know. So he, and also it was like, so that's it. So became a name. Bob needed to have a name. But they say, all the guidance would always say, "We're always there. We're always with you." I mean, we don't have to have a name or be called in. When you're ready, we're ready to come in and talk. But they don't always just come in front of you, da 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 da, you know, they don't do that. It would be nice. But my guidance came through talking, and they would start different exercises of just getting me attuned. And some of these exercises are what are being used, were used in the tapes. So this, it kept evolving, and it was so interesting. And so what happened then is, after we'd have a session, we'd go up to Howard Johnson's. We'd be really hungry. Bob and I would be really hungry afterwards and sit down and talk about what had happened. Because Bob he had a very deep philosophical mind, basically. And he loved to talk about what the guidance said, and we would go over different things. So some really funny things happened. One thing, actually, though, Bob pointed out that the guidance came in different forms. Sometimes a guide would come to someone with a cape. For whatever reason, it might have been that the person that was having the session with Bob, the explorer, wasn't ready to look the guide right in the face. So they'd come with the cape, and eventually but we just learned a lot. And Bob said no matter who he put into the lab, everyone had a guide that would come. And see, this was all new to Bob. He wasn't into anything metaphysical. And that's where he was learning, just by having these sessions. And he realized that everyone, I mean, it didn't happen that no one showed up. Eventually, everyone would meet the guide, you know, the explorer. And they just came in so many different forms. what happened, one of the funniest stories, and we had been doing our sessions for a while. One of the funniest stories was a lady that had come down, a psychologist that had come down to visit him from D.C. And Bob had a lot of people come in to do articles about him, and he would always say, I can't talk to you about it. You have to find out by going into the lab and finding out for yourself what it is. So this lady, who was a psychologist, came somewhat, he could tell that she was a little bit skeptical, and he just knew that. So what happened, that day I'd called in, I don't know why I called in, but I didn't come. So this lady, he put this lady into my check unit. And so she's in there about 15 minutes, and all of a sudden she says, oh, there's somebody in here with me. And Bob, she was so sort of scared and upset that Bob was ready to turn it off. But he looked up at the clock and he realized she was in my check unit, and he realized the time, and so he let it happen. So the woman, she said, there's somebody here. Oh, there are 4 of them. And they want to take me out of body. So my guides would come. I guess maybe I was a lazy explorer. They'd take me by the feet and take me by the hands, take me up to a platform. And when we got up to a certain platform out from the earth, we would just decide where we wanted to go. We wanted to discuss it. But these were just the helpers, and they usually did not talk. It wasn't the helpers that did the communication. It was the main guide, who was the 5th person in there. And she said, oh, there's someone, they're trying to take me out of body, and they're saying, no, this isn't her. And another would say, yes, that is her. And then, no, that isn't. And they'd just get her up so far, and then, oops, dropped her, but realized it wasn't me. So the lady, actually, Bob said, she came down the hall. After you finished a session, she came down to his room where he has all the, he does all the work. What's his lab? And Bob just sat her down and just said, he showed her the sessions we had and the things that happened and talked about it. And she just was amazed, that this happened to her. She was a good explorer because she picked up on all this. Sometimes someone might come in and not pick up on it. But Bob gave her a good explanation. But I'll tell you what, she never came back. We never know. I thought one day, I was thinking, that woman might appear here and say, I was that woman from D.C. But I think it spooked her out because it was just a little too much for her. And I don't know that she wrote an article or anything. But that was really interesting. So that night we went up to Howard Johnson's and we're talking about this. And I said, oh, wait a minute, Bob. I thought all guides were way up there and knew everything. Why would they not be sure who I was? What's going on? And then we realized that we look to them like they look to us like an energy field. They see us as an energy field. They didn't see me as the face I have, but all energy. And that's what we see them as in many cases. We don't see the whole, as an energy field. And that's why it wasn't clear to them what's going on.